In this video, we will tap into the movie Sonic the Hedgehog. We will discuss the movie story, summarize the plot, and explore the cast and characters. Additionally, we will cover the movie production details and box office performance. Finally, we will provide the reviews and personal reactions. Let's begin with the movie story. The film opens with Sonic the Hedgehog narrating about his life. He lived in the Green Hill Zone under the care of an owl called Longclaw. Because of his super speed powers, hidden, but he loves being able to go as fast as he can. He tracks Longclaw home. He attracts the attention of a tribe of Echidons who attacks Longclaw's home. To keep him safe, she gives Sonic a bag of rings that will transport him wherever he needs to go. And she sends him through a ring to Earth. Sonic tries to run back to her, but the portal closes as she holds off the tribe. 10 years later, Sonic has been hanging out in Green Hills, Montana, living in a cave by himself. He spies on Sheriff Tom and his wife Maddie, whom he has nicknamed Donut Lord and Pretzel Lady because they are always eating those. The only person in town who has been Sonic is a town loon named Crazy Carl, who always Sonic the Blue Devil. Tom has recently applied to a job in San Francisco and he has been accepted, but he knows it would be to ask Maddie to move out there for him. Sonic watches a Little League game going on and later plays on the field by himself. Although he has fun, he truly feels lonely. He runs across the field and creates an electromagnetic pulse power enough to knock out the power across the Pacific Northwest. Tam's fellow officer Wade, played by Adam Bailey, is receiving calls at the station from everyone in town and he alerts Tom to the situation. The Department of Defense suspects something dangerous going on, so they reluctantly enlist the aid of brilliant but arrogant scientist Dr. Robotnik, played by Jim Carrey. He arrives with his assistant Stone and assumes authority over Major Brankton. Robotnik unleashes his horde of drones to scope out the area to find any trace of Sonic. The drones find one of his footprints and Robotnik set out to find the little hedgehog. Sonic sees the army men hunting for him, so he runs to get everything from his cave as he prepares to toss the rings to take him to a mushroom planet. He ends up in Tom's garage. Tom overhears him after taking about the black out to Maddie, who is staying with her sister Rachel. Tom finds Sonic and hits him with the tranquilizer dart. At days, Sonic sees Tom's San Francisco t-shirt and drops one ring, opening a portal to the top of the Transmerica Pyramid building, and Sonic drops his bag of rings down there. Tom brings Sonic inside and asks him a bunch of questions. Robotnik takes Sonic's location to the Tom's house and forces his way inside after hearing a noise and then finding one of Sonic's squirrels. Sonic reveals himself and freaks out Robotnik, leading him to punch him in the face and run away with Sonic. Robotnik takes the kill and has Tom declared a terrorist to have him become a wanted man. Tom reluctantly agrees to take Sonic to San Francisco to get his rings back. They stop at a gas station where Tom uses a payphone to talk to Wade, who knows he is in trouble. Unfortunately, Robotnik has already gotten to the station with his goons and knows Wade is talking to Tom. Sonic gets out of the car to check out the bar across the street. Tom finds him there, and although he asks Sonic to leave, Sonic wants to have fun before he goes home. They play darts and score dance before getting into a confrontation with some big guys, leading to a bar brawl. Sonic takes advantage of things by using his speed to mess with others before he and Tom have to resume running. They end up staying in a hotel where they bond as friends, but after Sonic falls asleep, Tom sees a news report of himself affirming his new criminal status. Robotnik and Stone inspect the scene of the bar fight and is able to track Tom and Sonic's location. They talk about Tom wanting to move out of Green Hills since he doesn't feel like a real cop there, while Tom notices that Sonic just wants a real friend. He pursues them on the road using a vehicle of his own invention. After the two see this, Sonic taps into his powers after he gets emotional and he manages to quick rule against the vehicle to knock it over. It turns out to be some kind of nesting doll of drones as smaller drones came out to attack. They finally manage to destroy it, causing Robotnik to start freaking out over his failure to catch them. But Sonic is injured in the explosion. He then applies Sonic's skill to his tech to provide him with the same power and speed. Sonic and Tom finally arrive in San Francisco to Rachel's house. Rachel doesn't like Tom and is always trying to get Maddie to dump him. But Rachel's daughter Jojo likes him just fine. They meet Sonic after Maddie tries to treat him and Jojo gives him a fresh pair of sneakers after seeing that his are worn out. Knowing Rachel will give them problems, they tie her up and take her car to go to the Transmedica building. The three make their way to the rooftop and find the bag of rings, but before Sonic can go, Robotnik and his drones find them. Sonic pushes Tom and Mary off the rope and uses his speed to destroy Robotnik's drone. He rushes down to toss a ring to transport Tom and Mary back to Green Hill safely. Robotnik then chases Sonic as he uses his rings to go across the globe before winding up back in Green Hills. Robotnik knocks Sonic out, nearly killing him before Robotnik can proceed to do more damage. Tom steps in the way and says Sonic is his friend. This revives Sonic and gives him a power surge just as the other Green Hill citizens stand in to defend him. Sonic fights back against Robotnik and has Tom sneaks up on the mad scientist and open a ring behind him. Sonic rolls hard and smashes Robotnik's ship, sending him through the ring into the Mushroom Planet. Sonic decided to stay on Earth while Tom and Maddie decide to stay in Green Hills. A government agent shows up at the Tom's home to reward them for their heroic with an Olive Garden gift card. They also keep any information on the incident as well as Robotnik hidden. Tom and Maddie then show Sonic that they made a space for him in their attic for him to play and to stay, recreating it to look like the room in his cave. Sonic is happy to be part of a real family. In the Mushroom Planet, Robotnik has totally lost his mind and is now bald with a crazy mustache, just like his video game appearances. He still has Sonic Quill and is making plans to return to Earth with it. During the credits, another creature appears on Earth, Trails the Fox. He is there to track Sonic down and he uses his double tail to fly off and find him. Sonic the Hedgehog's 60 million box office opening and now it's finished. Franchise comparison and more explanation. And as you know that now the third part is out now. There is a great deal of context surrounding the 60 million number one opening weekend of Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and its place in the overall franchise. The 2024 movie, which is directed by Jeff Fowler, stars Jim Carrey and others. It is the third features-length installment in the live-action franchise adapting the video game franchise of the same name, which launched in 2020 and also include the Paramount Plus spin-off series Knuckle focusing on the adventures of the titular enhanced voiced by Elba. The Sonic the Hedgehog 3 release kicked off the weekend before Christmas in 2024. Also opening that weekend was Mufasa the Lion King, Disney's photorealistic CG animated prequel to their 2099 smash hit remake of the traditional animated 1994 classic The Lion King. The 2019 movie grossed $1.66 million, which is more money than both of the previous Sonic movies earned worldwide combined. Nevertheless, the new Sonic movie took number 1 at the domestic box office, most likely due to a variety of factors. However, this opening weekend chart performances does not necessarily impact how it compared to the general trilogy. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 beat Mufasa the Lion King to be number 1 at the box office. While the movie itself featured a Shadow vs Sonic showdown, the domestic box office beated Sonic vs Mufasa and the former came out on top. The video game adaptation racked in a 3-day total of 60 million, while the Disney prequel only earned 35 million, falling below its initial projection of roughly 50 million, which was already nearly one quarter of the 2019 movie opening weekend of 191 million. Musafa nevertheless took number 2 above Thanksgiving holiday hits Wicked and Moana 2. Sonic the Hedgehog 3 $60.1 million 3-day total. Mufasa the Lion King $35 million. Wicked $14 million. Moana 2 $13 million. Armstead $6 million. Box office of the Sonic nearly beats Harrison Ford's Call of the Wild. Sonic Hedgehog 2020 box office performance. After a close box office battle, Paramount Sonic the Hedgehog pulled ahead of Disney and 20th Century The Call of the Wild on North America charts. The two movies had been in a surprising tug of war for first place. Heading into the weekend, Sonic was expected to easily dominate again, but Harrison Ford's Call of the Wild ended up taking the top spot on Friday. Ultimately, Sonic finished the weekend with $26.3 million, enough to defeat Call of the Wild and its $25 million debut. Sonic the Hedgehog became an unexpected box office hit after launching with the stellar $70 million over the President's Day holiday weekend. In its second week of release, the movie crossed the $100 million mark in North America and has surpassed $200 million globally. The Call of the Wild beat projections. It carries a massive $125 million price tag. So the PG film will need support from ticket buyers across the globe to break even. It launches overseas with $15.4 million from 4 foreign markets, taking its worldwide haul to $40 million. The latest adaptation of Jack London's 1900 novel got a mixed reviews from critics. Moviegoers were more impressed and gave the film an A cinema score. TCX supernatural thriller Benham's The Boy 2 this weekend, other new release, generated $6 million from 2,151 venues, on par with expectations. Overseas, the horror film pulled in another $2.22 million for a global start of $8.22 million. Opening weekend crawls for Brahms The Boy 2 skewed female 53%, while 56 were under the age of 25. The standalone sequel to the 2016's The Boy, starring Katie Holmes, cost $10 million. STX reports that its exposure on the film is under $3 million after foreign pre-sales, meaning it should be financially successful for the studio. Warner Bros. Comic book flick Birds of Prey landed in third place with $7 million from 965 theaters. After 3 weeks of release, Margot Robbie Harley Quinn's spin-off has earned $72 million in North America. Birds of Prey dug up another $10 million abroad for a haul of $101 million internationally and $173 million globally. Sony's Bad Boy for Life nabbed the number 5 slot, bringing in $6 million in its 6th weekend in theater. The action comedy sequel has amassed a huge $191 million to date. Sonic the Hedgehog 2020 movie. The movie is directed by Jeff Fowler. The movie is produced by Neil H. Mortis, Toby Asher, Toro Nikara. The movie is written by Pat Casey and Josh Miller, based on Sonic the Hedgehog by Saga, starring James Marsden, Ben Schwartz, Tika Sumpter, Jim Carrey. Narrated by Jim Siegertser, music by Tom Hulkenberg, edited by Staki Shikogar and Deborah Neil Fisher. Sonic the Hedgehog is a 2020 action-adventure comedy film based on the video game franchise published by Sega. The film is directed by Jeff Fuller in his features directorial debut and written by Pat Casey and Josh Miller. It stars Ben as the voice of Sonic the Hedgehog and Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, as well as James Marsden, Tikus Campett, Natasha Rothwell, Adam Pally, and Neil McDonough. In the film, Sonic teams up with local town sheriff Tom to find his lost rings and escape Dr. Robotnik. Development for a film began in the 1990s but did not go beyond the planning stage until Sony Pictures acquired the film right in 2013. Production involved the collaboration of Sega Sam's Japanese studio Mirza Animation Planet, with Fowler brought in to direct in 2016. After Sony put the project in turnaround, Paramount Pictures acquired it in 2017. The majority of the cast signed on by August 2018, and principal filming took place between September and October that year in Vancouver and on Vancouver Island. Following the negative reaction to the first trailer in 2019, the film release was delayed by 3 months to redesign Sonic. Sonic the Hedgehog premiered at the Paramount Theater on January 25, 2022 and was theatrically released in the United States on February 14, 2020. Critics praised the performances, Sonic design, and its faithfulness to the source material, but criticized its plots and perceived lack of originality. The film set the record for the biggest opening weekend for a video game film in the United States and Canada. It grossed $306 million worldwide, becoming the second highest grossing film of 2020 and the highest grossing video game film adaptation of all time in North America. The plot of the movie is Sonic, an extra-dimensional blue hedgehog who can run at supersonic speed, finds himself sought after by a tribe of agents for his power. His guardian, Longclaw the Owl, gives him a bag of rings that can create portal to other planets, using one to send him to Earth while she protects him for the agents, and also gives Sonic a map to a planet filled with mushrooms to use if he finds trouble on Earth. 10 years later, Sonic enjoys a secret life near the town of the Green Hills, Montana, but longs to make friends. He idolizes the local sheriff, Tom, and his veterinarian wife, Maddie. Unaware, the pair are planning to relocate to San Francisco soon, as Tom has been hired by the San Francisco police station. One night, Sonic becomes upset over his loneliness when playing baseball by himself and runs at supersonic speed as a result, inadvertently targeting an electromagnetic pulse that knocks out power across the Pacific Northwest. Robotnik and scientist genius Dr. Robotnik is enlisted by the United States Department of Defense to uncover the source of the outage. The movie cast is Ben Sienkiewicz as the voice of Sonic, an anthropomorphic blue hedgehog with superhuman speed who is on the run from Robotnik and the United States government. Schwartz also provided the facial motion capture for Sonic. Jim Carrey as Dr. Robotnik, a mad scientist and inventor who is after Sonic super speed powers for world conquest. James Marsden as Thomas Mitchell or Tom Wishoki, the sheriff of Green Hills who wishes to join the SFPD, he befriended Sonic and aids him in his quest to stop Robotnik. The production and development of the movie. Development for a film adaptation of the Sonic the Hedgehog video game began in 1993 during production of DIC Entertainment's television show Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. Why the Sonic Hedgehog has been an unexpected box office hit. Sonic the Hedgehog didn't get off to the best of starts, but the video game adaptation is now having the last laugh. Having been delayed from November 2019 to February 2020, Sonic the Hedgehog has raised past $200 million worldwide at the box office, as well as second the biggest opening weekend of all time of the video game movie. After only 2 weeks of release, it's the fourth biggest video game movie in the US with $106 million. Worldwide, it stands a chance of breaking the record of the best video game movie of all time, currently Warcraft's $439 million. Whether or not Sonic the Hedgehog managed that record remains to be seen and depends how it does against Pixar's Onward. But the mere fact that it's even in contention is something no one could have expected after that first trailer. So just why has the big screen debut of the Speedy Blue Hedgehog been such an unexpected box office hit? There's no denying that the successful design of the character played a major part. It's hard to imagine the movie's family-friendly nature working well with a frankly terrifying Sonic at its center. Nearly every trailer gets criticism of some kind, but it's rare that the criticism lead to actual change. The reaction to that first design proved so overwhelmingly negative that the movie was delayed by 3 months and a new, improved Sonic was worked on the fans and the general public could love. It played a role in Sonic the Hedgehog getting better than average reviews, especially for a video game movie, positioning it as a movie that the fans would enjoy and one that families could go and see. The marketing and the reviews highlighted that this was a movie that was squarely aimed at younger children, trying to capitalize on the success of the Sonic Boom animated TV show. In another unintended benefit of the results delay, it means that Sonic the Hedgehog landed before the school holidays in most of Europe, making it the most see movie for families. Disney, The Call of the Wild did Sonic and turned out to be quite good too, providing some family competition. But Harrison Ford and a CGI dog were not able to dethrone the Hedgehog, and it remains the leading family offering at a cinema. That will be the case this weekend too, as The Invisible Man is the main release and doesn't share the same audience. It will be Onward on March 6. That will prove the biggest challenge to Sonic the Hedgehog run so far. But it could be on the verge of or past the $300 million mark by then. That might not seem like much, but every few video game movies have managed to hit that mark. And as much as Sonic the Hedgehog tone was aimed at a younger audience, it doesn't forget the long-running fans of the series. After listening to their complaints over the original design, the movie also featured a number of Easter eggs from the games, including that surprise appearances at the end that set up a sequel. It's a rare thing for a video game adaptation to satisfy fans and a wider audience, but Sonic the Hedgehog managed to do just that. And now it's bringing in all the box office sold rings as a result. How in the world is the Sonic the Hedgehog movie actually good? I didn't believe it when I heard it. Early reviews of Sonic the Hedgehog were coming in from mainly gamers and YouTubers saying that it was actually a lot of fun and one of the best video game movies ever, if not the best. If you have been watching any video game based movie the last few decades, you know what a rarity that is. And wonder simply do some filmmakers appear to have figured out how to make game characters and storyline work on screen. The Sonic movie has a not stellar but stellar for a Sonic the Hedgehog movie, 63% on Rotten Tomatoes, putting it in the French camp. And after seeing it, I am willing to venture a guess that the number would be higher if more critics were my age and had grown up with the Speedy Blue Hedgehog so they could appreciate how well the film treats him and his history, hence the 95% audience score. I have seen the movie and the general consequences is correct. Sonic is very good and yes, you can probably make the case that it's the best video game movie to date. As low as a bar as that might be, I like Detective Pikachu, but that was a weird story even for Pokemon. And I think Sonic tells a more straightforward tale here that is easier for more audience to appreciate. Rather than do an entirely CGI movie based in the Sonic games, we have a Sonic gets pulled into our Earth storyline where the befriends Lottle Cop, James Marsden, and is pursued by the mentally unstable genius Dr. Repontic, played with Ace Ventura, followed by Jim Carrey, who truly does seems like he times wrapped weird from the 90s to give us some of his classics physical comedy, and he is a huge part of the reason the film works. But the main reason, of course, is Sonic himself, voiced by Parks and Recreations Ben, who I have seen gleefully celebrating the film's success on social media this weekend. More power to him, as a few months ago it looked like Sonic was going to be an utter disaster due to a trailer that showed off a terrifying CGI rendition of the character. I was lambasted to such an extremely degree that the film was actually delayed so they could redo the animation for every Sonic scene in the movie, which is truly wild. And yet, totally worth it as the final Sonic we see in the film here is exactly what fans were picturing it in first place. The movie maybe still could have worked without the change, but creepy Sonic probably would have made it a lot harder to appreciate. Sonic is full of countless Easter eggs and reference to the original games that start from the first few seconds of the film when the Paramount start with replaced with golden rings. There are too many to even list here and some of them are better left as surprises. But suffice to say the fan service works if you are veteran of the series and the movie does a good job of implementing a ton of different games elements while setting the story on planet Earth. Ultimately, however, the reason Sonic works is because it tells a every human story through the vehicle of an alien hedgehog. Fundamentally, Sonic is a story about loneliness as the movie opens with Sonic having hidden on Earth for years, unable to talk to anyone lest it put him in danger. The entire arc of the movie is about Sonic making his first actual friend in ages and a best friend in Marston in particular. The trio of Sequoia as Sonic, Marston, and Carrie's wacky robotic ultimately is what makes the movie a success. Bolstered by a solid script and a very apparent love for the original games, Sonic's best years may be behind him in the video game industry, reduced to competing with Mario in the Olympics and Smash Bros. But it seems clear that he is going to have a second lease on life through at least another movie or two after this. I am deeply happy that Sonic movie is this good. A few months ago that seems impossible, but a lot of hard work and love for the source material went into making this a truly impressive video game movie, a true rarity indeed. Sonic the Hedgehog is the worst kind of bad movies. It's too inoffensive to be hated and too rushed to be enjoyable. You might think that this movie's sad limbo state has something to do with the extensive and well publicized last minute animation redesign that made titular Woodlander creature Sonic look more like Saga famous video game character. You would be wrong. Sonic the Hedgehog is rotten because it, like too many other modern blockbuster, was seemingly made by an imaginatively bankrupt creative community with more ideas for jokes than actual jokes to tell, and more cocky cutter plays holding dialogue but the power of friendship than something. To say about that ballad palette equality, Sonic the Hedgehog is a bad action adventure video game adaptation and buddy comedy. It feels almost completely impersonal, same for whatever James Marsden, playing Sonic human companion, tries to rescue the movie by being confident and graceful in the face of an otherwise tired, send the magical caterpillar back home, kitty fancy. I hope that everybody involved in the making of this movie got paid well and on time. Nobody else has an excuse to see Sonic the Hedgehog, especially now that easily defeated parents can park their kids in front of a computer or TV and let them watch some Sonic the Hedgehog gameplay videos on YouTube. Trust me, your kids' happiness does not depend on them seeing this movie. Still, if you must take your kids to see Sonic the Hedgehog, there are a few things you might want to know. For starters, this is a painfully bland E.T. the extra terrestrial clone Sonic, a magical creature who can run fast, teams up with nice guy, smart on cop, Tom to regain the what's it in this case a bunch of gold rings that open portals to any destination Sonic can think of that will help him to escape Goonie made scientist Dr. Robotnik Jim Carrey who wants to dissect Sonic. So Tom and Sonic go on a cross-country road trip from fictional Green Hills to San Francisco because that happened to be the city on Tom's chart when he, in a panic, shoot Sonic with a beer tranquilizer and then Sonic, now stunned and powerful midlife drugs, accidentally throw his rings into a Golden City rooftop. San Francisco also happened to be the city where Tom wants to move to given his completely original dream of finding recognition and excitement beyond his quiet hometown. But really, the setup for Sonic the Hedgehog hangs on a beer tranquilizer and some bad timing. The rest of the movie non-existent sense of urgency is provided by Dr. Ripontic, a Hemi antagonist who likes to yell about how much smarter and more powerful he is compared to anyone else. Dr. Robotics controls expensive-looking robot drones and has a flimsy waxed mustache that looks like one of those party favors you see every third wedding guest wearing in your Facebook friends' wedding reception photos. Dr. Robotic is not very interesting, but he is in the Sonic video games, so he is in the movie too. Also, there are some dull stranger in a strange land shenanigans involving Sonic Butterlist, whose bullet point include tame a wild animal, start a bar fight, and make a best friend. Your kid could probably write a better scenario given a little focus and the right motivation, two qualities that the makers of Sonic the Hedgehog seems to lack. I don't mean to be unnecessarily harsh, but based on the movie I saw, Sonic the Hedgehog doesn't need to exist. Marston does a lot of heavy lifting just by recreating to a computer generated character whose only distinguishing feature is his resemblance to a beloved video game character that was never really interesting unto himself. But Marston cannot save this movie from a deal of uninspired case scenario, dumb plot twist, and disposable pop culture reference. Wow, he is doing the floss dance again, terrific. Sonic the Hedgehog is only as successful as the amount of time you want to spend watching its animated protagonist go on. Instantly forgettable adventures, and boy, is that unfortunate. If you really want to know why you should skip Sonic the Hedgehog, try to watch the movie's trailer and see how much of Jim Carrey's aggressively Jairus performance you can take. Like Marston, Carey does a lot of acting, but unlike his co-star, Carey is never as entertaining as he is in energetic. Watching Carey in Sonic the Hedgehog is like watching a drunk try to jumpstart a party that was well and truly died upon his arrival. Unfortunately, Carey's laborious effort only makes things worse. I don't know what Sonic the Hedgehog was ever salvageable because ultimately everything in it, including the good stuff, is depressing. Sonic the Hedgehog 2020 movie reviews. With this, the 31 film in the marathon, we draw it to a close, and it's somehow fitting that it started with a crap Mario film and end with a good. Sonic the Hedgehog film, the two rival iconic franchise of my childhood. In the 3 decades between the films, we have only now started to find a groove of good production, ignoring the straight-to-disc DOM film that actually pay homage to the source material while doing their own thing. Admittedly, that's only two films in a row, and at least one film on the horizon is not looking good. Hello Monster Hunter, but still let's take a look at Sonic the Hedgehog, the film that, despite looking like a train wreck a year ago, has managed to pull one out of the bag. Powered with incredible speed, Sonic embraces his new home on Earth until he accidentally knocks out the power grid, sparking the attention of uncool evil genius Dr. Robotnik. Now it's supervillain vs supersonic in all-out race across the globe to stop Robotnik from using Sonic's unique power to achieve world domination. Sonic being amusing and cute after destroying something that for all he knew had a living person inside. As I know going in thanks the trailers, the definite highlight for the film for me was seeing Jim Carrey back in the 90s overly energetic instant from as Dr. Robotnik. I actually did a real social media post saying Jim Carrey cast as Dr. Robotnik has to be one of the weirdest headlines I have ever going to read. And while I was right, he doesn't exactly look the part. It turned out great, crazy monologue, cheesy lines, weird dancing sequence while he runs a test of ones of Sonic skills, all seen in the trailer, admittedly, but all still hilarious. Given it was funny for this now 36 years old, I can imagine it was a hit with the film's target audience as well. Speaking of the target audience, this film reminded me a lot of the other actually good film in this marathon. Detective Pikachu is that it's a really good kids film that also resonates with elder people watching, especially if they are fans of the source material. I mean, Sonic lore has been changed to being sent to Earth from what I am going to assume in Mobius, even if it was never called that by large owls using the gold ring that in the universe can teleport people to wherever they wish. But apart from that, say it's all good. Sonic is definitely closer to the childhood favorite cartoon, which I will admit is on the obvious side as an adult, but I'm sure it was a hit with those young and similarly hyperactive seeing this film in the cinema. So Sonic has had to stay in hiding but has nonetheless fully integrated himself into American culture, a lot of which came from observing small town police officer Tom in the town of Green Hills. Sonic gets angry at being alone one night and reveals himself to the world by generating a massive blackout with his unearthly powers and soon ends up actually meeting and talking to Tom while trying to go into hiding. During this meeting, Sonic loses his bag of teleporting rings through a portal to Chicago, and so the Blue Blur and Tom go on a road trip full of person out of place humor and X-Men style person turning so face it look like everything is frozen. Seen in the bar, all the while Robotnik is on their tail. It's a perfectly fine setup. They then go the route of fun immature character falls with the person he looks up to, gets hurt, and then they make up before a final confrontation with Robotnik, which thanks to the rings take place all over the world before ending at Green Hills. Sonic gets full of crazy blue lightning power and with Tom's help shoots Robotnik off into the white mushroom planet as due to the flee to next. Sonic moves in with Tom and his wife Maddie, who help for a bit toward the end, all of a family being accepted into a family at least feel good ending, followed by some credit with a bit better than 16-bit graphic retelling of key film scenes, followed by two mid-credit cutaways, one of Robotic on the mushroom planet with the bald head and giant mustache, therefore looking far more like this game counterpart, and one their tails arrive but of a portal looking for Sonic to set up a sequel. Our sequel I am looking forward to, which is something I never thought I'd say about a live action Sonic film, hell a game based film, is Journal, frankly. Well, I hate to rag on a family film for lacking originality, but there was not anything here you have not seen 1000 times before. Outside loner who wants a friend finally finds a friend, they fall out, they get back together for the exciting final. It's entirely predictable, but as mentioned, it does it well when so many children films are just anthropomorphic animal farting, which only happens once in this film. Just don't go in expecting to be surprised about anything. Hell, they actually used the I know that you are thinking, how did I get into this mess? Opening complete with scene from the end of the film before rewinding back to start of the film. I always hate the glitch. It just shows you have no faith in the start of your story. So yeah, no surprises, especially if you have watched the trailer as they gave away pretty much everything. There were moments with Tom's sister-in-law, Rachel, where she constantly tells Mary to leave him, but they are written and performed in such a way that is beautiful, unpleasant rather than a funny gag. She later got tied up and accidentally left in her home for days, and frankly, good or maybe that's going a bit far, I don't know. Either way, this stuck out to me as not being funny in a film I was otherwise enjoying. I also really enjoyed romantic, long-suffering sidekick Agent Stone and was sad to see him just not appear in the latter third of the film, even if, admittedly, I'm not sure how he could have appeared while Romantic was chasing Sonic around the globe. We end the game to live action movie Metron, the opposite of how we started, with a really good film that works with the source material really well. Overall, it's not a family film that will wow you with originality, but it's one that will entertain all audience watching, including fans of the original filming franchise. Sonic the Hedgehog 2020 movie reviews. I don't know about you, but I spent a pretty film bulk of my adolescence navigating a wildly blue hedgehog throughout various landscape as he collected as many rings as possible, while simultaneously thwarting the saddest efforts for the miniature inventor Dr. Remoting along the way. Avid video gamers or not, billions of eventual fans founding something Sergeantly addictive and OC-Dish is about collecting as many rings as you could and somehow make it to the end of each level without losing them at the slyest hiccup. Decades later, this youthful obsession has come rolling back into our lives as Sonic the Hedgehog is now a full-length feature film. Blending live action with newly designed CGI, this Sonic begins in his home world as it is explained. His ability to erupt into super speed, think the Flash if we were an aqua-colored spiny mammal. This is a special power that will attract diffuse parties for as long as he is exposed. Forced to flee his home, Sonic uses his special rings which essentially function as portals here to find a new home of anonymity on Earth. As he grows up, Sonic is forced to live in the shadows, watching humans like Sheriff Tom and his home Maddie go about their days from afar. After a deep exploration of his stagnation conditions, Sonic experiences a bout of loneliness which triggered a rig EMP that wipes out all power in the vicinity. This rise of the government and the military calls in the assistance of a megalomaniac genius by the name of Dr. Evo Robotnik to hunt down his alleged terrorist. When Tom realizes romantic attention was shady at best, he agrees to help Sonic retrieve the rings that are key to his freedom and possibly make a friend along the way. Directed by Jeff Fowler, Sonic the Hedgehog is not aspiring from high art. This is a children's movie through and through. Goofy humor, cheesy dialogue, ludicrous plot development. That's a part of the great. Is that a good thing? Well, just moderately. It is a great movie. No, but does it have to be? Let's be perfectly honest. Sonic is a movie based on a video game about an odd creature avoiding a lonely villain in a hovercraft by running ridiculously fast as all time while he hunts magical rings. It's nonsense. What matters here is if it is happens to be entertaining enough to be please parents and their kids for 90 minutes. The answer to that is yes. It absolutely does. James Marsden proves an affordable enough statement and honestly deserves more starring turns as he has the looks and chops for full-time leading man status. As the voice of Sonic, Ben energized the proceeding with wide-eyed innocence and humor, ever injecting the character with a comfortable dose of heart as Sonic struggled with his alienated life on the lam. The notorious redesign of Sonic was gloriously, especially in comparison to the terrifying design of the original trailer, and he now evokes an exact replica of my childhood memories. If I had any issue with the CGI, it would focus more on the live action, obviously looking at the wrong tennis balls in numerous scenes with their eyeline failing to watch up to our beloved hedgehog. Lest we forget, Jim Carrey has returned to the rubber-faced comedy he built a career on as Dr. Robotnik. Carrey delivers a greatest package of every ridiculous character he has ever embodied. As if this could be his final run in this arena and he is leaving nothing on the table, it mostly works. There are definite scratches where even Carrey feels a bit long in the tooth of these antics. But judging by the ruckus laughter of children surrounding me, that's just me being an old foodie buddy. Sonic will be short-lived in the memory banks of many as it is a very easy breezy comedy built for the heated and quieted crowds of today. That said, there is enough comedy, CGI razzle and hard to recommend for a family in need of the light martini. Most importantly, by the end it has found enough of its growth to do the legacy of Sonic the Hedgehog justice. Sonic the Hedgehog 2020 movie has now two sequels. Gotta go fast Sonic the Hedgehog 2022 movie. Critics note this was the last movie I saw prior to the pandemic kicking off. 2019 saw a true trailer that gained infamy for a terrible CGI and Benflick decision. Cats, which I previously reviewed, and Sonic the Hedgehog, like the 40th Razzie Darling. The Sonic trailer was bleak with problems, creepy CGI, Jim Carrey overdoing his shtick, and the odd musical inclusion of Kalamazoo Gangsta Paradise. But after the release of the second trailer and a delay by the studio, many of the issues seems resolved. But was that enough to have this movie break the video game movie curse? Ben voices Sonic, who is in this version is a refugee who fled his home world of the town of Green Hill Mount. Sonic there he causes mischief and observed the resident of Green Hills, including the town sheriff Tom. One day, Tom gets a letter accepting him to the San Francisco Police Department, allowing him to make plans to move with his wife Maddie. Distraught by his friend leaving, Sonic acts out by returning fast enough to cause a supernatural power surge. This draws the attention of not only the US government but also made Saturn's Dr. Robotnik. After meeting Sonic and crossing Robotnik's path, Tom and the strange hedgehog go on a road trip to avoid the mad scientist while trying to turn Sonic to his home world. The cast does a solid job to this movie. Ben Stillwell's bring the same chaotic energy that Sonic's been known for, and James Marsden does an amazing job as well. While this could have easily been a rehash of this performance in Hawk, it feels like an upgrade from this other Froese in live-action children film. He has a great character, so someone who wants to get out of this small town in exchange for the action and risk of being a cop in San Francisco, and the chemistry he has with Tika Scamter feels genius. But Jim Carrey takes the cake when it comes to the movie's performance. Carrey takes his comedy from the 90s and brings it to its prime. Nowhere in this done better than when Robotnik confronts Tom about the abnormal power surge where the two engage in a verbal sparring in which Carey and Marston play off each other's energy in a way that ramps Carey up. While the story follows the CG character human character formula, it's not the worst way it could have been handled. There's nothing new added, but it follows the formal well. The story is accentuated by its character and their chemistry with each other. Much like a Marvel film is, the movie feels like a smart translation from video game to movie, with the rigs being used for Sonic to travel between worlds, his iconic red shoes being practically useful, and Robotic and Tails being implemented to set up the upcoming sequel. When I saw this, all I could think was how this felt much better than it should have been. Video game movies have been gradually improving in quality in the past decade, and this movie is very much part of that trend. While the plot is nothing new, it's accentuated with solid performance and good translation of the game to the big screen. You can tell that the people who made this really cared about the IP, which is all you can ask for in a film adaptation like this. Sonic the Hedgehog, distributed by Paramount Picture, directed by Jeff Fowler, composer Tom. Growing up in the 90s world, weird everything was advancing too fast to even be identified. Before we were familiar with one piece of tech, in came the next big thing: CDs, DVD, and internet, emails, full CGI movies. All this and more found their first incarnation in that tumultuous decade. Perhaps the punkish speed star Sonic the Hedgehog was the embodiment of that time that we didn't know we needed. His Nintendo competitor Mario may be timeless, but the Blue Blood is family 90s in all that he is. We live in a time in which a video game to film adaptation is no longer the worst idea that one could conceive. That title is currently being contested between Studio Tagalog is an elective in American law school. Sonic the Hedgehog 2020 movie. A lot has been made about this movie in its lead up, particularly the brouhaha is regard to the terrible original design they revealed for Sonic, the reaction to which led to the film being delayed while they redid his look. Whether it was successful, I'll get to the moment, but this sort of pressure of expectation was always going to play against this movie. Speaking of expectations, I was a fan of the games in the 90s, but always aggregate how the ancillary media over the last couple of decades ever quite captured when I laughed about the original games in a satisfactory manner, whether it be in the regards to lore or presentation or even just being entertaining enough. However, plenty of other fans lasted a lot longer than I did and they have their own favorite version. So once again the pressure of expectation was upon this. In all honesty, I was surprised by how much fun I had with this movie. I dislike the idea of lowering one's expectation, but instead I prefer to manage them and well as managing my intentions in regard to what I want to get out of the experience. This is first and foremost a kids movie. It's a familiar, family-friendly fare with a plot that many have quite rightly described as reheated from other films like The Smurf, for example. But I didn't have a problem with it, and it works well here. Sure, it's a tad predictable, and there are some minor leaps in logic, as one sometimes finds in these sort of movies aimed at the little one. But again, it's one of those intents where it matters very little in the overall enjoyment. One major element that helps all this has to do with sonic design. No, it certainly doesn't make the story itself by any better, but it doesn't exist in making Sonic more relatable, therefore easier to invest in the story. It's not that his design is more accurate, even though it is, it's that he looks more endearing along a similar vein is how the internet our carriers collectively exploded over Bobby Yoga. The environment allows the audience to more easily emphasize with Sonic character and polite meaning the stakes have some meaning if only by a matter of degrees. Ben adds to his with the energetic performance as the voice of our titular Blue Hedgehog that surprisingly doesn't outstay its welcome despite all the jokes and pop culture reference, which normally would get old rather quickly. With the rocky cutter nature of this movie goes some very standard recognizable casting with James Marsden in the main human role. He did a similar film Hop nearly 9 years ago. To the war room being filled out by the regular go-to older factors you always see as the military brass. The stars of course is Jim Carrey as Dr. Romantic. Now I grow tired of Carrey's cunning and failing by the end of the 90s. However, it was fun to see him back at it again after so long. Your Malik may vary, but it almost felt as if this over-the-top physicality was more controlled and measured this time around, and it made for a welcome return. For die-hard Sonic fans, it will not be romantic or Eggman player you know from other media, but how that character developed works for me to maybe become that. The characterization of both Sonic and Robotic intrigue me in the way they are diametric opposite. Sonic is lonely and has learned to cope with it by pretty much talking to himself a lot but still yearn for friendship. Robotic detests people because he is incredibly smarter than everyone else and keeps wanting the evolution and potential for rewards. It's a funny movie enough to entertain young and old, and the third act, again as corny as it is, worked out better than I had anticipated. It feels like a smaller effort than I should, particularly because its intro and mid credit sequence all hint at something much bigger. There are also plenty of Easter eggs for the longtime Sonic fans to spot, and the moment of nostalgia are lovely and cute. Some of the visual effects look a tad off, but I could forgive that, although a few of my favorite moments include the way they depict Sonic super speed in the same manner they did for Quicksilver in the latter X-Men movies. The film inhabitly our refusal to swing for the fans is what hold it back. The safeness and lack of risk taking prevents it from being a truly amazing and compelling story. Again made over more obvious with how that intro hints and along to a much bigger, more interesting, faithful story. that's not being told yet. However, to dwell on the wasted potential is to undermine that I did right, even if it was a short on the baseline of fine. Sonic the Hedgehog is all publicity to not good publicity, as the team behind the live action Sonic the Hedgehog discovered when the film trailer was released in April 2019. Fans of the 1991 Sega video game were distracted by the animated blue hedgehog uncanny human priorities, and so the project was delayed 6 months in order to fix the problem. The freshly right-signed Sonic, voiced by Parks and Recreation Ben Sketch, it certainly gutted that this beaver, attrition, quiet and cheeky next to James Marsden's sleepy Hollywood's handsome sheriff. Yet, as in the case of Tom Copper's Hasly smoothed out cards, the improved visual effects do little to enhance the story dimensional storytelling and over-explain an all too brief prologue setup Sonic as an overfun loser whose power of super speed have forced him into exile on Earth. I have had talk to have seen more of Sonic's video game inspired world. Instead, the action is grounded in Green Hills, Montana, where Mr. Tom becomes Sonic's first real friend, weeping him from the stitchy clutches of Goofy Drawn Lord Dr. Robotnik. Marden is charming enough, summering surprising chemistry with Skids, and so it's not total torture spending an hour and a half with the pair, yet for better or worse, it doesn't linger. Sonic the Hedgehog 2020 movie reviews. I am beginning to sound like Pete Repeat when discussing nearly every new kid movie developing from a 90s era property. But Sonic the Hedgehog is yet another film that feels 15 years too late, which, much like Captain Underpants, Ratchet and Clogs, and Playmobil, the movie, this is another case where the respective studio Paramount Picture sat on the right and developed it with the material long enough for its original target audience to have kids of their own. I have no idea whether or not young children will stay play games featuring the blue hedgehog, but what I will opine is that had this film has made in the early 2000s, it would have felt fresher and more palatable. Sonic the Hedgehog is the peculiar case where a film gets the framework right but not its screenplay. Dropping Sonic is a remarkable, unremarkable town in Montana was a decision clearly enough to work. Same with giving Jim Carrey the role of Dr. Robotnik and just letting him run with it at one-handed MPH. It's unfortunate the dialogue here is comprised almost entirely of quips, and the film furthers my assumption that the Deadpool formula is officially tired. Not every character needs to be so bluntly hip and rebellious. They had make Bart Simpson's build them as a poser. The plot Sonic Cash lands on Earth after escaping his own planet as a child thanks to the golden rings that serve as portal and allow him to travel to any local. Indeed, of all places, he lands in Green Hills, Montana, going up a largely unseen observer of small town life. He is a people watcher because that the hell else is his lightning fast hedgehog going to do on Earth. Sonic's two favorite characters around happen to be Tom, a local police officer he calls Donut Lord, and his wife Maddie, a local vet known as Parrotzel Lady. Tom life as a cop is a sleepy town in less than captivating, at least until he is offered the opportunity to join the San Francisco Police Department, where he might actually get to do something besides sit at a speed trap most of his shift. On that fateful evening, Sonic gets wound up after a Little League game and creates a power outage so widespread it gets the attention of the US government officials, bringing Dr. Robotnik, Dr. Eggman by recollection, but I feel the internet has already hashed that one out. A brilliant madman who lined up a technological army of machines in order to find the source. Sonic and Tom cross paths, and through a series of unfortunate events, Sonic's ring wind up in San Francisco. Robotic knows he is responsible for the power outage, and both characters hit the road to obtain the ring. Nitpicks aside, kudos to the tireless VFX team who weathered a fair storm of controversy in regard to Sonic initial design and likely spent many sleepless night courts correcting their work. The original Sonic looked like the ugly brain child of a humanoid hedgehog, and the worst outcome of the uncanny valley aesthetic, having to watch an entire movie with that thing as the primary character would have really made the experience unbearable. Sonic the Hedgehog, by all accounts, is like its titular video game icon, full of energy while occasionally leaving you susceptible to fatigue. The biggest issue is the dialogue, which plays like a collection of punchlines and keeps asserting the character's happiness at every turn. Sonic is a cocksure character by nature, but even his attitude wears on down when he is a know-it-all one minute and then bombing his league of friends the next. He is essentially tolerated as a Deadpool clone, another swarmy voice character who constantly reminds you that he is an edgy, self-aware creature. Maybe this is the consequences of having Sonic enter the cold real world. By watching him interact with humans as bland as Tom and Maddie makes you wish Chuckles, Tails, and Amy would appear, take Sonic to a new planet, and show him what fun really is. The saving grace is Jimmy Carrey, who gives us a throwback role of short by embracing the eccentric nature of Robotnik with the poise he brings. Even the stylish character with his curved mustache, long expression, condescending nature. He is the ideal antagonist in so far that even if his motivation are glitch, whenever he is on screen, you lock in because he is so unpredictable source of charisma in spite of himself. There's fun to be had even if it is too intermittent. The first half had me marginally amused up until the point when Sonic was kept in the passenger seat of Tom's truck and the film became too realistic in a way. To confine Sonic in a car ride seems too counterintuitive to the spirit of the character. A mid-credit scene leaves hope that the inevitable sequel will give us more time with Sonic and has lengthy of their existential as opposed to make him coexist along forgettable boards. Sonic the Hedgehog. Hollywood has a less than stellar history when it comes to video game movies, but there have been recent signs that filmmakers are getting closer to figuring out how to make them work. The Dan Jensen vehicle Rampage has dumb fun, Tomb Raider did well enough to get a sequel, and Pokemon Detective Pikachu killed us with cuteness. Now comes Sonic the Hedgehog, whose journey from video game to live action movie has been far from smooth. The negative response to the first trailer, especially Sonic disturbing, excessively realistic look, led to the film's releasing being delayed and promise of the redesign. But while the new look is a big improvement, the finished product is by and large forgettable. It's all the more frustrating given and its hero and villain are not perfect. Tom brings just the right amount of childlike energy to Sonic to make his fast-talking tendencies endearing instead of irritating, and Carrie is almost worth the price of admission by himself as the mustache-twirling Robotnik from consistently quirky line deliveries to a wide yet entertaining dance sequence. This is easily the funniest the veteran comedies has been on screen in a long while. It's when Carrie is not on screen that Sonic the Hedgehog underwhelms. The bland center romance between Sonic and Mercer's overly trusting sheriff is missing a few key beats. and the speed at which their relationship developed means that the more emotional moments in the movie latter half don't hit as they perhaps should. Another character who would benefited from a slower pace should be Tom's wife Maddie, who is given far too little to do. As for when things actually need to be speedy, Director Jeff Fowler does a good job of letting Sonic's confident personality shine through in the action sequence. Still, it's not enough to detract from the fact that much of it feels derivative of Kirkle's big moment in X-Men Days of Future Past. Sonic the Hedgehog film review. For all the careful the attract is the spring of 2019 over the visual design of Sonic the Hedgehog. The Blue for Speed Demon mascot of the Sega video game turned live action kiddie adventure to wish that the creator of Sonic the Hedgehog who went back and redesigned the character after being pressured. Almost wrote polite by his fans had been inspired to redo the character's voice. Sonic, who was attacked for looking too anthropomorphic for comfort, there was a great deal of attention paid to his unnecessarily human teeth, is now closer to the big-eyed red snake crab with the stylized smirk who was launched by Sega in 1991 and wound up becoming a kind of Mario or Pac-Man for Millicential in the movie. He now approximates the Cadley Astro Boy look of Sonic from the game franchise, but he talks like the ultimate, greetingly overfamiliar cartoon, smart aleck, a little snide, a little nerdy, with a mild vein of attitude, through essentially he is voiced by Ben Sequators of Parks and Recreation. To sound like Chappelle as if the movie had concocted some sort of vocal smoothie out of Garfield and Fritz the Cat and Owen Wilson and Patton Oswalt, whatever Sonic now looks like, his soul is unconcealed. Given the level of obsession with which Sonic fans regard him, the maker of Sonic the Hedgehog would have done well to turn the film into a slapstick theme park of video game trickery like the relentlessly imaginative Death Break the Internet, but no. Their truly epic bad decision, far worse than the original fussy humanoid design of Sonic, was to make the Sonic movie into one of those clunky live action adventure comedies with a digitally animated generic plot into the middle of it. The trouble with this form is that the live action setting inevitably results in a colonizing cheerful camp sitcom woodness. In this case, the tale of how Sonic buddies up with Tom, a sheriff in the small town of Green Hills, Montana. The two family land in San Francisco so that the film can have an action climax. Set atop one of the towering platforms of the Transamerica Pyramid, whenever they are an odd couple totally snarky enough to make your lid strobe. So how speedy is Sonic? He is so fast that he jogs at 297 miles per hour, plays a baseball game with himself. He can effectively slow any situation to a standstill, crawling around inside it to make whatever adjustments are necessary. This ability comes in handy and entertainingly when he is stuck in a rantic bar. He is like the roadrunner without the silently amused mystique. Early on, the dishes around to the tone of coins. Don't stop me now, I will now make a supersonic man out of you, which gives you a proof of the film product tie in the idea of cleverness. Sonic has his gold video game rings that allow him to teleport and his mind zips around too, which means that he adds a spin of rapid fire naughtiness to lines like the face I was born with, the confidence I picked up along the way. Sonic the Hedgehog does pair up sort of when Jim Carrey is on screen as the evil Dr. Robotnik, whose origin story this basically is after the
Electric light from one of Sonic's mad dashes shot out the entire Pacific Northwest. The US military is convinced that there must be some sort of alien invasion afoot, so they send into Montic a freelance machine wizard to investigate. Carrie wearing a big wax mustache out of an old western, a long black coat with a lining of satanic red, and a haircut that can only be described as a Hitler fade, does a vintage Carrie turn, which is to say he could have given the exact same performance in 1998 and maybe did, but there's a giddy nostalgia to seeing him execute this routine with such timeless demon sprite abandon. Roboting is a cracked tyrant genius who control an army of sensor drones. They are like the weaponized droid in Robocop, except that they look like flying humidifier, and his driving force his life appears to be to demonstrate at every opportunity. His innate superiority, we all know that sure. Average Hollywood comedy tends to include some on-set improvisation. But in this case, the contrast between the lead-in Passato branches of the rest of the movie and the ping of Carrie's dialogue is so marked that it almost feels like he made up his entire character on the spot. I'm not declaring that he actually did, I am just saying. When he leaves, it will be fun to take you back to the lab for a litany of invasion exploratory processors. It reminds you that the Carrie personality was always built around cheeky new ways to bring the pain. A review like this one should probably come with a disclaimer for all the borderline Tatum I felt at Sonic the Hedgehog. I do realize this is a picture made for 8 years olds and you will probably like it just fine. Yet I would also call the overly kiddified tone of the movie is mistake. The protesters who relied for the changes in Sonic design by treating it as a line in the sand issue, thereby demonstrating at least one reason why Donald Trump will probably be re-elected, who now have a generation that think this is a cause. We are not 8 years old as a movie hero. Sonic could and should have been hyper and sharper. Less megaplex arrested even as they fixed his face. The filmmakers tried so hard to make him likable that they never figure out a way to make him cool. Sonic the Hedgehog, cute and heartfelt, is unconventional family fun. Paramount's Sonic the Hedgehog, a live action animated hybrid based on the classic Sega video game property, is finally hitting theater after a major setback saw the film delayed 3 months so the titular blue Speedster could be redesigned. When the first Sonic the Hedgehog movie trailer hit the internet last spring, the criticism was quick and the memes were ruthless as fans wondered why the Hedgehog looks was so different to the games. Instead of forget forward director Jeff Buffler announced a release date delay and major redesign of Sonic would take place, which ended up being the right choice as Sonic the Hedgehog now features a much more classic design. The public has all but forgotten the original less than pleasing look of the character and has focused more on the movie itself. Sonic the Hedgehog offers a kid-friendly adventure movie based on the classic Sega property that tells a solidly enjoyable yet uninventive story. Written by Patrick Chasey and Josh Miller, Into the Dark School Spirit, the Sonic the Hedgehog spirit turns Sonic, voiced by Ben Sequars, into a superhero of a kind, making him an alien from another world with a special ability that's sought after by those who would use it for evil. As a child, Sonic is given magical rings that allow him to travel between worlds and told to stay hidden and keep running, which he does until he makes a home on Earth. When Sonic accidentally causes a power outage and brings unwanted attention on himself and the town of Green Hills, Montana, the young Hawks comes out of hiding and asks local sheriff Tom for help in retrieving his ring from San Francisco so he can fly to another world. They are pursued by the villainous Dr. Robotics who want to dissect Sonic and learn the secret of his super speed. On the whole, Sonic the Hedgehog is a relatively simple story pulling inspiration and story beats from established archetypes like the superhero origin story and the road trip plot line. The odd couple dynamic between Tom and Sonic is similarly tired and true, only freshened by the fact that one is an energetic blue hedgehog with the mentality of a teenager, and the other is a tired dad type tasked with protecting the ramp-efficient speed sitter. It is a winning dynamic playing on Mustaine's natural charm and Tom's propensity to be the lovably annoying sidekick. However, there are times when the pair don't necessarily click and the jokes just don't work, but it's largely down to the script, which could have used a little punching up, especially on some of the other liners. In fact, and unfortunately, Sonic and Tom are not the movie linchpin, as that would be Sonic the Hedgehog baddie. That said, the villain of Sonic the Hedgehog would have been entirely uninspired if not for the casting of Gary. For this part, Gary is back in the classic form, putting a widely silly, theatrical, and entertaining spin on Eggman that channels the same energy of his most popular 90s and early double series roles like Ace Ventura, Batman Forever's The Riddle, and The Grinch is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Whatever because of Carrie's or the script itself, Sonic the Hedgehog feels a little out of time as it was made in the 90s but still makes modern pop culture reference. Since culture moves so fast now, even its most recent pop culture reference already feels out of date, like a Sonic flossing after a win. It managed to work partially because Carey is able to smooth out some of the movie's rougher edges, and when he is not on screen, Marston and Skarsgård's performance are able to keep the film flawed mostly. Ultimately, Sonic the Hedgehog is very much a kid movie, for better or for worse. It's cute and engaging enough to keep your younger audience entertained, and while older viewer might not be as entirely invested. Parents who themselves grow up with Sonic will no doubt be pleased to share the experience of his first live action movie with their own kids. Certainly, there's enough nostalgia driven humor and connection to the games to entertain Sonic fans of all ages. However, the movie's formulaic and rather simplistic approach to the world of Sonic and the story of Sonic the Hedgehog chooses to tell may be a bit frustrating or boring for those accepting more from the property. Still, at the end of the day, Sonic the Hedgehog does accomplish what it sets out to do, tell a fun, entertaining, and heartfelt story about a young outcast hedgehog who found his place in the world. As such, Sonic the Hedgehog is great family fun, especially for those who kids and are parents who grow up playing the Sega games. The Sonic redesign certainly helps to feed into the nostalgia of the film, giving the movie and character a visual style that's easily recognizable to fans. While that may further make Sonic the Hedgehog feel like it's playing it to safe, there's something to be said about occasionally giving fans exactly what they want. In this case, it makes Sonic the Hedgehog more of a crowd pleaser for those who are not necessarily fans of Sonic or Carrie's classic performance. Sonic the Hedgehog doesn't have much else to offer and can easily be missed in theaters. But considering the winter drought, those looking for something fun to check out will not go wrong with Sonic the Hedgehog. Altogether, Sonic the Hedgehog is a fairly mildly family-friendly adventure movie, but a comparably good video game adaptation that believes a great deal of potential for a stronger, even more ambitious sequel. Hopefully, Sonic the Hedgehog will get the chance to explore its world and take more risk in a follow-up. Sonic the Hedgehog movie review. The movie Sonic the Hedgehog movie ending explain. Sonic the Hedgehog that is released in 2020. The ending explain and what it could mean for Sonic the Hedgehog 2. The movie, as it's the first film, it what could be a string of epic adaptation of the Sonic the Hedgehog storyline seen in Sega's classic video game. The ending to the movie seems to flash some big arrows towards with some potential Sonic the Hedgehog 2 could be about. Part of those flashing arrow in the two mid-credit stings that accompany the resolution of the story proper in Sonic the Hedgehog and the implication of path of those moments send the realm of possibility into an even greater scope of action. Sonic the Hedgehog movie and the implication of path of those moments send the realm of possibility. Not to mention there's a new character introduced, they will have audience cheering is surprise delight. There's a lot to talk about and we are going to get into all of it shortly, so if you want to avoid, this is your last chance to leave before you take off in a blue blower of spoiler. So what happened at the end of Sonic the Hedgehog? At the end of Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic and Dr. Robotnik have a fast and furious chase around the world from San Francisco to China and eventually back to Green Hills, Montana. The bad doctor follows our furry friend throughout his ranked portals of transport with a flying machine that's powered by one of Sonic's electrified coils. Winding up back in the small town that he has secretly been living in for about a decade period to the events of Sonic the Hedgehog, the existence of Sonic is confirmed to the townspeople, especially Hedgehog theorist Crazy Carl, ready to take out his small nemesis. Dr. Robotnik asks the town to stand aside and let things play out as they may. But Sonic's new friend Sheriff Tom stands in the way of the pissed off Hedgehog and this would-be assassin then asks why he'd so such a thing. Tom states it's because he and Sonic are friends. Awoken from his wounded state and supercharged for a fight, Sonic rises up and tosses one of his rings behind Dr. Robotnik's aircraft. As true Sonic the Hedgehog fashion, our hero curves up into his trademark spin-off ball formation and collides with Dr. Robotnik's malicious flying machine. The force of Sonic impact not only smashes the vehicle apart, it knocks the evil villain into the dimension that Sonic was originally going to escape to, a planet full of mushroom, presumes to be the Mushroom Hill Zone from Sonic and Chuckle. Sonic the Hedgehog existing is an open secret. With the final battle in Sonic the Hedgehog now concluded, the sleepy town of Green Hills, Montana now officially known, the Sonic does indeed exist. So in a potential Sonic the Hedgehog 2, we just might see our Sega mascot friend walking more openly in the streets of the town he saved. Of course, this is not a totally clean gateway, so we see as the very end of Sonic the Hedgehog that the United States government is still looking for Sonic, with the hopes of trying to lure him in for a very casual, brunchy type meeting. An official bribe is made to Tom and Maddie Tika Sumster via a $150 gift card to the Olivia Garden, graciously expecting this gift card as payment for a job well done. We learn that while the Wachowskis state that they don't know where Sonic is, he is actually closer than some would think, living in a replica of his hidden cave from the beginning of the film. Sonic the Hedgehog is a resident in the Wachowski attic, along with some added touches of home. Sounds like a happy, completely closed ending, right? Well, there's a two pretty big reveal in the mid-credit sequence that would say otherwise. Robotnik is currently in exile or another word, while we see Dr. Robotnik sailing into another dimension in Sonic the Hedgehog. That obviously not the end of the story. It will take more than a March cuts landing and burst chips to stop a three-handed equal genius from getting home, and he is pretty determined to make it back before Christmas.